Man, I feel like when society collapses in like a month or so, we'll be able to barter these.
Are beautiful.
Right? These are
They
gorgeous.
can certainly be used as a weapon.
It's like
We need some.
17 pounds each.
We got to get some.
Toasting to triumphs and celebrating the unbreakable American spirit. Welcome to Choir Practice. Brought to you by Law Enforcement Today.
What's up, America? Time for another episode of Choir Practice. I'm here with my co-host.
Bernie Hallams, retired law enforcement.
And this guy, who are you?
Tom Smith, retired NYPD detective.
So before we get into it, we have a new tradition. Our family, both personally, our business family, all of our colleagues, before we do anything, before we eat, before we meet, before we film, we typically open in prayer. And so we decided that in this super divided society where the world is on edge, everybody's at each other's throats, people are super stressed and concerned about the state of our country and the state of society, we decided we would just open every episode in prayer. So if you all join me. Father God, we thank you for the blessings that you've given upon us. We thank you for the opportunity to have this incredible platform and this incredible voice. We ask you to give us wisdom and discernment and how to tell the stories of the men and women who serve and protect our communities and our country. Lord, we thank you for all these incredible leaders who continue to put their lives on the line every single day. We ask you to help us be truthful, accurate in all of our reporting and the way we tell these stories and hopefully inspire others through them. Lord, thank you for all of your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, so we're going to start with a couple little shout outs. We don't do the paid endorsement thing. I mean, listen, if a really cool brand comes along with like millions of dollars, we'll talk about it, but that's not what we're doing today. We've just got some really great people and really great businesses that support the men and women who hold the thin blue line. So let's give them some shouts.
Absolutely. First one is Go Pills. It's a nootropic for the brain. Definitely something that y'all should think about utilizing. I have a traumatic brain injury as a result of a cruiser accident. The developer of it also has one. And I've talked to him on the phone today and he said, listen, the more you use it, the better it's going to be for your brain. So please give it a shot. Great stuff. It really is. Okay. Patches. If you want to send patches, if you want to send sweatshirts, XL, we will definitely show them for you. These are from our friends from NYPD, which is representative of having this wonderful ambassador here too. But please feel free to send those. We are here to represent you, so please send them on out.
Warrior 12, our apparel partner of choice. This is probably one of my new favorite shirts. It's obviously a cross on the front and on the back. Faith over fear. If ever there was a time in society where this is a message that everybody in America needs to hear, it's right now. It's very easy to allow all of the negative media coverage and the scary stuff going on to win, but we're told many times again and again and again, biblically, be not afraid. And so we're not going to be afraid, except for this toss I'm going to do to Connor in the camera.
Nice.
Be not afraid. Sticky holsters for everyone flipping out right now. We're at a Whiskey Wolf Firearms. They are empty. They are clear. The holsters, on the other hand, are holding very cool products, obviously. But sticky holsters, guy supports law enforcement, supports, obviously, the Second Amendment. This is now my go-to for all of my everyday carry. Holds very comfortably. Sticky holsters. Go check them out.
I got to do the Red Solo Cup. All our tapings today are to show honor to Toby Keith, who passed away this week. R.I.P. brother. Thank you for all that you did for our troops and America in general. You will definitely be missed and always remembered.
All right, so now that we've gone through and talked about all the free stuff that we got from other companies and you've gotten nothing, you bring us stuff too?
Yeah, I did.
All right,
I did.
cool.
But now with that wise remark, you may not get it. So I'm going to give it to you first. Sorry.
Thanks, brother.
These
Clearly,
are
this
our-
guy's from New York.
These are our challenge coins from our Gold Shield show. They're works of art. They're like hockey pucks. They're great. So that's
Thank you,
the
brother.
official way to do it.
Man, I feel like when society collapses in like a month or so, we'll be able to barter these.
Are beautiful.
Right? These are
They can
gorgeous.
certainly be used as a weapon.
It's like
We need some.
17 pounds each.
We got to get some.
So let's this guy. He sees one shiny object and he wants all of them. Let's talk.
No,
a
I
little
said
bit-
we got to do some.
I know. That's what I mean.
Well, that's the place to get them.
All right. So I guess we should dive into how we met, huh?
Yeah. Through Megan Stockberger, Adam Davenport, the two founders of the National Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame, that we're both lucky enough to be getting inducted the same night on March 22nd down in Fort Worth, Texas.
But one of us has this incredible career and has achieved the Lifetime Achievement Award, and the other dude just a guy who runs his mouth. But they're honoring me as the Civilian of the Year or something.
And
like
well
that.
deserved.
Thanks, man.
Well deserved.
Appreciate
for
that.
Sure.
But
I'll
forget
say-
me. Let's talk about you. You've got a hell of a career, from what I've been told.
Very fortunate. A lot of things broke the right way. And I just had a love and dedication for this job to do whatever I could to be successful. And 30 years in the NYPD was the only job I wanted. It was the only place I wanted to work. Detective was the only rank I wanted because my dad was a 26-year veteran of the NYPD. So I grew up with that. I used to steal his shield to put on my belt and run around, chase my sisters around, when I was little. And started off in 1990 in the west side of Harlem in Washington Heights, when you had, my precinct was 1 square mile and would average 80 to 100 homicides, a year. It was that time of the city, until 1994 when everything changed. From there, I was in anti-crime. I was only in uniform for a couple of years, and I went to the anti-crime unit, which was the plainclothes unit in the precinct. Then to narcotics in the Bronx, and then things started to really get fun because then you're just doing different stuff. And I had a phenomenal team in narcotics in the Bronx. We were really busy doing a lot of search warrants, and I was the RAM guy, so it was even more fun. So then to Bronx Gang Unit, where I met my partner Dan, who was my sergeant at the time, and then went to the 5-2 robbery squad, and then 9/11 happened, which changed everyone's lives, changed my career dramatically. Because right after that, I was asked to go to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, where I spent the last 17 years of my career, traveling around the world in places I would have never, ever imagined being an NYPD detective and the work that I'd be doing in 18 different countries, talking to heads of state, talking to every agency on the planet you could think of, going to Afghanistan for 3 months on a kidnapping case of a New York Times reporter.
Oh wow,
Working with, Navy SEAL team and a bunch of other agencies that were over there. And we got him out, which was the best part.
Nice.
And then 30 was a nice round number. I was basically in one piece, a couple of nicks and bruises, but pretty intact. So 30 was a good number to pull the plug.
Nice. Can we back up a little bit?
Sure.
Because you made some couple of real high profile arrests, and I think you know what I'm talking about. So help everybody else out with it.
Yeah, you guys have been playing like it's a secret between the two of you.
Let me tell you
these
something.
cases.
I read his it was like reading a small book, his accomplishments, which is why it's an honor and a privilege that you're here and all your accomplishments. Thank you so much. But
I didn't read it. There were no
let's go
pictures.
back.
I need pictures, or I can't.
Well, yeah, Chris said don't send pictures because then Kyle will get all screwed up. So just stick to words.
Little kid with a coloring book.
So that's why the pictures weren't attached. OG Mac.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I was on a great team in Bronx Gang Unit. Danny was a sergeant and developed the case against OG Mac, who at the time was the head of the Bloods Nation on the East Coast. Bad guy, bad crew. We even ended up down in Baltimore for a while, working with them, closing some homicides down there, which he was involved in. Then it came a point where we had enough and we were able to lock him up and his crew. And I was lucky enough to be the one to actually grab him and help him into a couple of garbage cans on the street when we locked him up. His partner that he was with at the time had a gun, which Danny grabbed, and executed a bunch of search warrants and locked up his whole crew that night. So that was one of the good ones.
Yeah, going back to where I am, a small community, 75,000 people, we had a lot of wannabe Bloods. And one fable story was 3 SUVs come up from New York, grab a couple of the wannabe gangsters, have a nice little conversation with them saying, you're not Bloods. And if you keep advertising that you're Bloods, you're going to find yourself covered in blood.
It was a business and they ran it as such. I mean, they had specific, titles and job descriptions for each level that they ran. And if you were a couple of punks sitting on the corner, they weren't playing that because that reflected them. Like bad guys, no doubt, but they still liked it contained into what they controlled.
Yeah, and that arrest caused a ripple effect all over the country. It really did. I mean, that's like cutting one leg off a two-legged table. You know, for lack of a better term, it really was. It was a high impact thing, and we're all in Connecticut going, yeah, you know.
What year was this?
99, 90, yeah, because Danny came into gang unit 98 is when we met, so it was around 99.
So at the risk of sounding facetious, this was back when you could actually still like go after guys like this, and they would be arrested and actually locked up and kept behind bars. I mean,
crazy concept, right?
Well, it's sad to see, like, so I remember growing up, I worked in TV, right? And my first TV station was in Springfield, Massachusetts. And the Italian mob basically ran the city. And not for nothing, but there was actually order and a code and I'm not saying these were good dudes, right? Don't misunderstand me. But there was a code. And then you saw some of these other gang elements come in and things just went to hell. I mean, blood running in the streets, and it was a whole different world. And now you flash forward to where we are in 2024, where you have these violent, brutal, hardened criminals who are being released. Look at the cops that were attacked by the illegal immigrants in New York.
Absolutely.
And those guys get released without bail, but now you've got the DA is actually going after with felony charges people who had fake vaccine cards. Right. And so the cherry picking of cases to advance political agendas, as opposed to just saying, who are the bad dudes? And let's go after bad dudes and let's make sure that they stay locked up. But, you know, traveling the country now and seeing the state of anarchy and the state of violence and the state of how deep the cartels have infiltrated some of these states, we are 3 days away from complete and total chaos and anarchy in any given state and, you know, in any given part of the country. And so I give you all the credit in the world for everything that you guys did, but how do we get back to that?
You need people to start voting with their brains instead of just looking at the letter that's at the end of someone's name.
That's right.
That's what they need to do. You need to start listening to these politicians and incorporating what they're saying into your life. And stop with well, it's a D. Okay, I'll vote for that. It's an R, I'll vote for that. And on both sides, you know, you have to listen to what these people are saying, because if you actually concentrate and listen to what they're saying, it's very telling their platforms. Yeah. And that should dictate what you're voting for or not voting for. And that's what it takes. You know, you look at New York City, for instance, you know, in 1990, the 80s, especially 70s, 80s, and the early 90s, when New York was out of control and you had 3,000 homicides a year and 112,000 robberies, until someone got in who finally, New York City is never votes Republican. Yeah. Voted for Giuliani because it was so bad at the time that they needed someone who was talking tough. Let's see what he can do. Yeah. And voted him in, and he was, you know, smart enough to get Bill Bratton and John Simony and Louis Anemone and John Miller, you know, and Jack Maple, all on the same team. That was the dream team. Mm. And their message was, go start being cops again. The only way you're going to clean the city up is if you let the police do their thing. But the one important thing that Bratton did during that time was he had to sit down with the 5 DAs in New York City and the mayor and said, listen, if I'm going to have my cops go out there and do their job, you damn well better keep them in jail, because it's the only way this is going to work. And now you have the complete polar opposite of that. And that's why we're in the state that we're in. Hmm.
Yeah, Bill Bratton's an amazing guy. I've never met him. I've read his book, one of his books. And I utilize it when I teach because he gets it. Yeah. He's a law and order guy, but he also believes in community. So he's doing both ends, you know, both legs of it, which is what it's all about. We got to be tough on crime, but we also have to take care and be a part of those communities that support us. Right. And the way we get that is by doing what he did. It was it was a simple model that any leader should look at and say, yeah, that's the way I need to run my police department.
Yeah, I was just going to say the broken windows policy worked magnificently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it wasn't about what do you look like, how do you vote, anything like that. It was we're going to catch this early on to prevent it from getting to the point that society's at right now.
Right, because they found out the same guy jumping the turnstile was the same guy doing the robbery on the A train.
Right.
Same guy, you know, and,
crazy idea.
One leads to another, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
So what are some of these other cases that you worked in or some of the experiences that you had?
Well, the Afghanistan case was very unique and very different because NYPD detectives don't go to Afghanistan,
Right.
On a case. And this was a New York Times reporter who lived in the city who got grabbed by a Al Qaeda affiliated group. My team got it. I got asked to run it with another guy.
He got grabbed in Manhattan?
In Afghanistan.
Oh, in Afghanistan.
He was there doing a story for a magazine. Him, his driver, and his interpreter got grabbed. They let the interpreter go. They held on to his driver and him. And we got the case. And myself and one of the other guys were running it. And we splintered it at first. Jimmy went downrange first. I stayed back and getting everything in order with all the agencies we needed on board to participate in this and get this going.
Mm-hmm.
The military was on board up in Bagram. So then after a month or two, I went there. And I had a game plan with going there. And my game plan was to treat it like any other case. I got it in my mind like, all right, you're not in Afghanistan, you're not in a war zone, you're not working with the Navy SEALs, just do the case. And my first instinct was to get a source that knew the area, knew the terrain, and could find where this guy was.
Okay.
And my source ended up being the biggest, largest heroin dealer in Afghanistan. Because I told the agency when I was working with them, who recruits sources, I said, I don't want a terrorist, I want a criminal. Because I'll trust a criminal.
Yeah.
I don't trust a terrorist.
Mm.
And the criminal's going to understand I'm not there for him. And myself and the source, once we hooked up, got along great. We respected each other. And I told him, I don't give a shit what you're doing here. I don't care. I care about getting this guy and finding him, and that's what I need your help with. And we got along very, very well, which ticked the agency off because he hated them. So that was even more fun. And then we got proof of life videos from him, was able to track a few things down. A couple of things fell into place, which I can't get into, but it worked out, and we were able to get him out.
That's incredible.
It is. And that's, we just talked about 2 stories in a 30-year career. Unbelievable. Absolutely. Total respect. And thank you for keeping our country safe. And thank you to NYPD for having the confidence to put someone like yourself and other officers in that position to help protect our country. Through the things you do.
So I got to ask, Bernie and I don't always agree on everything, right? But we also don't shy away from the difficult conversations. We have on our board of advisors at law enforcement today, we have the heads of the Federal Law Enforcement Officer Association. We have a lot of friends between the two of us who are at the agency level. But we've seen a pretty sharp exodus at the FBI from guys who are like, you know what? I got pulled off of sex trafficking cases and child rape cases to follow people who were in DC on January 6th or people who are pissed off at school committee meetings and everything, and they're leaving. Did you see a shift happening earlier on with guys who were like, you know what, I just want to do my job, or what was it like when you were in before you retired?
I started to see the difference right before I retired, which was I retired in 2020. So 18, somewhere around there, you started to see their focus and mission switch in different aspects, which when you're there for that long, and being in JTTF for 17 years is a really, really long time. It's not the norm. But I was just in a good spot in what we were doing, and everything. So I got to kind of see and know how it worked. And when you start to see different cases popping up that you didn't see before, and guys running around focusing on certain things that in my opinion, they shouldn't have, then you start to see what's going on. And I've said it forever, be it the FBI, be it the NYPD or whatever, there's three things in this world that politics should never get into. And when they do, it gets screwed up. The medical field, education, and law enforcement. When politics gets involved in law enforcement, cops change what they're doing in every aspect, how they work, what they're working on, and it gets to a really bad spot when politics gets involved in law enforcement. You should have nothing to do with it. And the Bureau is a perfect example of that.
Yep. Well, and I mean, to your point, we're seeing it in all three right now, right? We're seeing it in the medical field. We're seeing it in education. We're seeing consent decrees and everything.
And none of it's working.
Right. I mean, everything is backfiring. You see in the education space a massive movement towards homeschooling. I mean, astronomical numbers like this country has never seen before. We pulled our kids and we're homeschooling them. You see it in terms of how even the government is stepping in now to try and control misinformation and the beliefs that people have one way or another about whether it be the vaccine or big pharma or whatever, because of politics have become embedded in each of these areas.
Yeah.
And you start hitting a tipping point in society where if people lose faith in every aspect of the system, we get into a dangerous place. And now we start seeing a rising tension between law enforcement and the community that they support. You know, I still believe that one of the reasons that we had the situation surrounding the Floyd riots, the post-Floyd riots, it wasn't about it was about the George Floyd situation, but it was a bigger issue that had been happening over several years, which is that, and I got to put a lot of this on law enforcement, not you guys, obviously, but agencies have done a really shitty job of communicating the good that they do. They will take those press conferences that they have to, where they talk about the OIS, the officer involved shooting, and then they say, we're not answering any questions, no comment. Well, now the cop looks guilty as hell, even though he wasn't. It was a good shoot. And then on the flip side, you had all of these, like the dancing cop videos on TikTok that would get 10 million views. And you've got these crusty old cops who are like, that's bullshit. That's bad for the image. We don't need that in this profession. But like, there's a reason that it got 10 million views, because the community wants a relationship with law enforcement. And so when we have this growing divide between law enforcement and the community, and we're pulling back on your areas of expertise, which were community policing, it's natural that we're going to have a loss of trust there. And I think that's how we got to that point. The Floyd incident was sort of the spark on what we were sitting on a powder keg of.
Right. And you know what? I truly believe you can do both. You can have a great relationship with the community and be tough on crime.
Yes.
You can do both. And we did.
Yep.
I mean, like I mentioned before, the 3-0 precinct when I worked there, and Danny worked in the 4-6, which was this very similar precinct in the Bronx. 1 square mile and everything in the world going on there. Drugs, guns, robberies, everything. But we had a great relationship with the community, but was still able to clean up what we needed to.
Right.
And it's so needed, because you need the community. You know, when I go and talk in colleges and stuff, I tell the kids and the students that cops can't do everything on their own. They need the eyes and ears in the street, on the street, in schools, in this, to listen to what's going on, and then have that trusting relationship to go and tell a cop what's going on. Hey, this car just pulled up down the street. I don't know what's going on. Okay, thanks, man. Fist bump, take off. You know, instead of they're against us. I don't want to, you know, and I think the imaging problem is a perfect example of that, like you said. You know, get out there and start promoting the good things that cops do. And when there is a good event, publicize it.
Yep.
You know, you see all the time on the news, you know, firemen saving babies.
That's
and
right.
Ripping people out of cars. Cops do it too.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't see that because they're so worried about it may not look good. No, it's going to look good.
Right.
Just put it out there.
Yep.
Yeah. And but the other side of that too is that, you know, you have a hard time getting the media to support the good things you do.
Right.
You know, because they, you know, it's real easy to cover when a police officer shoots somebody, but why shouldn't it be equally as easy to do a coffee with a cop thing, or, you know, a basketball tournament or a community policing event? Because those are the things that bring that public trust back to us, right?
So that was my breaking point in TV. I was a producer of news and special projects. In the last 3 years, I was with one of the NBC owned and operated stations. And I was sent out, I'm not going to name the organization, but I was sent out to a media training, and it was on storytelling in diverse communities. And so we get out there, it was in Florida, really cool experience as you know, a young guy. And the very first thing that they showed us was, it was in storytelling, and it was how to use body camera, dash cam footage to tell a story. So they show us this clip. There were, I don't know, maybe a dozen of us sitting around, and they show us this clip, and it's an unarmed black guy being shot in the back, executed, right? And I'm sitting back like, oh my God, like this is terrible. So they show us what the news story is and everything. And then they said, now we're going to show you how we cut the video. Okay. I'm not an editor, I'm a producer. So what they didn't show in the news clip was that same guy who was, you know, the unarmed man who was shot in the back. Well, what they didn't show was the body cam footage of that unarmed guy running at the officer with a butcher knife above his head. And the second before he stabs the cop, he drops it and turns. Well, the officer is already in motion and he raises the gun, and it's literally like we timed it. It was less than a second. So Force Science has done a ton of studies on the brain muscle connection. Once that's in motion, is your brain can't process it fast enough to stop it. So what we saw as being an unarmed black man shot in the back was really a guy who almost killed a cop, and everything was in motion at that point. And so that for me, I was like, whoa, that's we didn't show the truth. Like, that's not what happened. What we just showed everybody is not what happened. And I remember the guy who was running the program was a pastor, and he said to me, son, if you want to make it in this business, you better learn how to tell a good story. And I was like, I don't want to make it in this business. And that was when I decided, it was a little bit before I was able to get out and took a buyout package and everything. But I swore that one day I was going to be able to give back from a truth-telling perspective. That's why we do what we do. That's why we try and show the truth. That's why we have those difficult conversations, because nobody else is. The media is screwing these guys, and people are feeding into it, and it's dividing society.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your show.
Well, it's called Gold Shields. Dan and I do it. We started it a little over a year ago, which is hard to believe that we have a season 2. Because when we started the show, we had 7 shows lined up. We're like, all right, what are we doing after 7? And now we just, this morning, just recorded our 58th.
Wow. Wow. Holy cow.
So, and you know what? The reason for it is exactly what you just said. The reason that we started the show was to bring attention to these incredible men and women in law enforcement, the military, supporters of law enforcement, anything to do positive with authors we have on, we tell the story. And the best part about the show and the best feedback we get from the show, as opposed to other kind of true crime podcasts, we don't tell someone else's story. Dan and I have the people who actually went through that event, or, you know, went through that mission, or got shot 8 times on the show to tell their own story. We don't tell anyone else's story.
That's awesome.
We say it all the time. Dan and I have very little to do with our own show. It's all about our guests and what they say, and we kind of keep the guardrail and kind of keep the conversation going. But we are so fortunate with the guests that we've had on the show. They become part of our family, because you can't help but to listen to a story like that and someone pour their heart out about a shooting or a traumatic event or a mission they did and got shot, you know, to the point of they're disabled now,
Right.
and not have a connection with them. So we're very, very close with all our guests, and it's a great ride. We're loving it.
Awesome. And I understand you're doing some work for another company now?
It's our company.
Oh, geez.
Actually. Yep. Dan and I actually developed, it's called Impact, and it is a alternative to pepper spray. If any cop out there understands this, pepper spray sucks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The only thing that it works on are other cops. Okay. In 30 years, I never used my spray, ever. Danny, for 20 years, never used his spray. So we came up with this. What Impact does is it is an extreme eye irritant. This burns the hell out of your eyes, makes them close. You cannot open your eyes. But there's no cross contamination. I can spray someone, jump right on them, and nothing is getting on me.
That's awesome.
All right. I've sprayed people in demonstrations and walked up to them, wiped their face off and wipe it on mine, and I'm fine.
Wow.
It is a nitrogen propelled bottle, so it is a targeted spray. This can go up to about 15 feet. If I spray the driver of a car with the kids in the car, the driver's getting affected. No one else in that car is going to get affected. I could use this in an elevator, in a room, in a bus,
A hospital setting,
everything like that.
prison setting.
There's a UV dye in it for identification later on. And two of the best things, there's no impact on your respiratory system whatsoever.
Wow.
There's no impact on your nasal cavity, so you're not getting that, drainage.
Yeah.
And once you're under control and you're cuffed, about a half a bottle of water over your eyes, wipe it off, and it's gone.
Do you need us to move the table for the demo that Bernie's
Go
doing?
ahead. Because that's the
I was
first thing I was
actually
thinking.
waiting for that.
Listen, I did my time with OC spray. It's your turn.
I
Tough guy.
have a condition. It's called.
You do.
I've
It's
got a.
called
You
Stare.
have a lot of
It's called
conditions.
Stare.
That's right.
It's called a mangina.
Yeah, there it is.
But it's taken off. The website is carryimpact.com.
Okay.
This is only for law enforcement?
No, law enforcement and the public right now.
Awesome.
Yep.
Love it.
All 50 states?
All 50.
Wow.
There's no, because it's not a chemical.
Right.
It's an irritant.
So, yeah,
It's made of citric acids and
you should focus on Massachusetts because they don't
well,
they don't let you
New
use.
York.
Yeah.
we're focusing on a lot. We're getting
Yeah.
a lot of feedback. We premiered it at the IACP out in San Diego in, what was that, October? I think we were out there. The number of people who came up to us from all over the world. We had a guy from another country walk up to us. We had a 3-minute conversation with him about this. Like, can I have 2,000? Like now? We're like,
Winning.
I don't have 2,000 under the table, but sure. Because of just what it is.
That's awesome.
The decon, the control that it burns, it hurts like hell. And the more you blink your eyes, the more it activates. There is also no reactivation in this. So once it's gone, it's gone. You're not going to the shower and it's coming back.
The old pepper spray. Oh, it's
that's
terrible.
right there.
Surprises, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pepper spray. I got sprayed. Went in, took shower, came out. There was still some here. Started. Now we're doing grappling things. So now your sweat glands are up again. And all of a sudden, I'm like, here we go, back into the shower.
No,
It
not this.
sucked.
When I did the test on myself, and my son had a blast spraying me with it. Once the water hit my eyes, 17 seconds later, I was fine.
Wow. That's incredible. Is it only in that size?
No, this is the MK3. We have a 4, which is a little bigger. Then we have the big party can, which is the 9.
For the bad shooters.
For the
The bar
it's great
dispersal.
for corrections. It's
Yeah.
great for cell. It's great for transportation. Buses, planes, and we're starting to market it. Trying to get it to airlines because this is absolutely perfect for every airline to have.
Oh,
Awesome.
man, it's awesome.
Shameless plug time. How can people learn more about you, your product, the show?
All right, one at a time.
Whatever.
You're right.
All of them.
There's a lot of venues here.
Carryimpact.com is the website for this. You can order what you want on there, pay for it right online, get a description, read about all the different sizes that we have. The show, goldshieldshow.com, is our website. We're on every audio platform you can imagine. I don't know,
Let's see, how many times-
uh,
I'm assuming you cannot bring this on a plane.
if you know what, that's where we're at because they're so focused on
Right.
a pepper spray, and we explain to them it's not. And we've had people get it on the plane.
Yeah.
Once we explain that it's not a pepper spray.
Yep.
It's actually 72% water. So that helps.
Hmm.
What did I say? thegoldshieldShow.com. We're on every audio channel, every platform. We're on YouTube or Rumble. Check us out. The stories we have are just mind blowing. I mean, there's times that we'll be talking and Danny and I don't know what to say. We'll know the story of who our guests are, but then they'll start telling certain stories about themselves and we just get blown away by them.
Awesome.
And we have a great time doing it. So, and then the Hall of Fame on March 22nd. Anyone's interested, you got to do this for Megan and Adam because they are the best people on planet Earth. National LEO Hall of Fame.com. Donate sponsorships they're into. So everything on that website you can do to support the Hall of Fame.
Or come hang out with us there. It's Texas.
It's Texas.
I mean,
Fort Worth.
dude, look, hang on. I'm not even messing around, man. I'm all in on Texas. Brother, thanks for coming on the
Thank
show.
you so much.
Parting
Thank you
thoughts?
Very much.
Nah, just grateful to meet you and chop it up with you. And thank you for your service.
Thank
Really
you very,
appreciate
very
what
much.
you did.
I
brother.
enjoyed being here. I really did.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for hitting that share button. God bless you all. God bless America.
Later, Mom.
Thank you for joining us at Choir Practice. For more, please visit lawenforcementtoday.com.